There is a gap between where you are and where you want to be, and that gap does not close by accident. It closes by decision, by repetition, by the choices you make in the first moments of the day before the world has a chance to tell you who to be. Most people surrender those first moments without even realizing it. They hand them over to noise, to habit, to the path of least resistance. And then they wonder why their days feel scattered, why their weeks blur together, why their years pass without the progress they were so certain was coming. The answer is almost always found in the morning, not in some elaborate ritual that demands 2 hours of perfect execution, not in a system so complex that you need a spreadsheet to follow it. In 15 minutes of deliberate, focused, intentional action before the rest of the world wakes up and starts pulling at you. Let me walk you through what that looks like, why it works, and why 97 out of every 100 people will never do it. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. That is not a pleasant idea. It is not designed to make you feel comfortable. It is designed to make you see clearly. Because most people live on the wrong side of that bridge. They have goals, they have dreams, they have visions of what their life could look like if everything came together. But they have not built the bridge. And the bridge is not built from motivation, from inspiration, or from a burst of enthusiasm on a Monday morning. The bridge is built plank by plank, day by day, in those quiet moments when nobody is watching and nothing external is pushing you forward. That is what discipline is. It is the thing you do when you do not feel like doing it. It is the 15 minutes you protect every single morning, not because it is easy, but because you have decided it matters. Think about that. Now let me ask you something honestly. What do most people do in the first 15 minutes after they wake up? Think about your own answer before I give you mine. They reach for a phone. They scroll through messages, through news, through the curated lives of other people. They flood their minds with information that is mostly irrelevant to their goals, their values, or their peace. They begin the day in a reactive posture. They are already responding to the world before they have had a single thought of their own. And that posture, that reactive, passive, drifting posture, follows them through the morning, into the afternoon, into the evening, and eventually into the life they will look back on with a quiet, heavy regret. The question is not whether this is happening. The question is whether it is happening to you. And if it is, what are you going to do about it this very morning? Here is a truth that can be difficult to hear. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every day. A few simple disciplines. Not 100, not a complex system, not a perfect schedule, a few things, done daily, with consistency and intention. And the morning habit we are going to talk about today is built exactly on that principle. 15 minutes, 3 components, practiced every single day, rain or shine, whether you feel motivated or not. That is it. That is the whole secret, if you can call it that. The people who win at life are not doing something wildly different from the people who are stuck. They are doing the same simple things, just more consistently, more faithfully, with less negotiation and less excuse-making. Let that sink in. Picture a garden. In the early days of spring, before anything has broken through the soil, the ground looks like nothing is happening. To a casual observer, it looks dead. It looks like wasted effort. But beneath the surface, the seed is doing its work. The roots are reaching down, anchoring, drawing water, preparing for the push upward. And then one morning, without warning, a small green shoot breaks through, and then another, and then the garden is alive. Most people never see their shoot because they gave up during the underground season. They tried the morning habit for 3 days, felt nothing, and went back to the scroll. But the ones who stayed with it, who kept showing up, who kept planting in those quiet 15 minutes every morning, they eventually break through. And once you break through, once those roots are deep enough, almost nothing can pull you down. Not a bad week, not a setback, not a difficult season, the roots hold. Now, let me tell you what those 15 minutes actually look like. 3 things. That is all. The first is stillness. The second is review. The third is movement. Let me take each one and open it up completely so you understand not just what to do, but why it works at a level that goes beyond theory. We begin with stillness. 2 minutes. That is all it takes to start. 2 minutes where you sit, you breathe, and you do not reach for anything. You do not consume anything. You do not produce anything. You simply exist with yourself in the quiet of the morning. Now I know what you are thinking. 2 minutes of sitting sounds like nothing, and you are right that it sounds like nothing. But try it tomorrow morning. Truly try it, and you will discover something interesting. 2 minutes of genuine stillness before the noise starts, before the agenda starts, before the world comes rushing in feels like a long time. Because we are not used to it, we are so conditioned to fill every second with stimulus that the absence of stimulus feels almost uncomfortable. And that discomfort is the signal. That discomfort is telling you that your mind needs this more than you realize. The pilot who sits quietly before a long flight is not wasting time. He is centering himself. He is reviewing his instruments, his heading, his altitude. He is making sure that when the flight begins, he is pointed in the right direction. You are the pilot. The morning stillness is your cockpit check. Without it, you are taking off blind. During those 2 minutes of stillness, ask yourself one question. Just one. What is the most important thing I need to bring to today? Not the longest to-do list, not the most ambitious schedule. Just one thing. The single most important contribution, decision, or action you could make today. Write it down if you need to. Hold it in your mind, because the person who knows their one most important thing before the day begins has an extraordinary advantage over the person who is just responding to whatever shows up first. Now think about this. Most people go through their entire day without ever identifying their most important thing. They are busy. They are productive in a general sense. But they finish the day having moved forward on a dozen minor matters while the one thing that would have actually changed their trajectory went untouched, day after day, year after year. And then they look up and wonder why they feel like they are working hard but not getting anywhere. The major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become. Read that again. Not what you get, not the achievement, not the outcome, not the reward. What you become. Because what you become determines what you can get, what you can keep, and what you can build. And who you become is shaped in the small moments, in the quiet of a morning before anyone else is awake, in the decision to sit still for 2 minutes instead of reaching for the scroll, in the act of asking yourself what matters most before the day has a chance to bury that question under 100 urgent distractions. Character is not built in the crisis. Character is built in the mundane. In the ordinary Tuesday morning when nothing dramatic is happening and you still show up with intention, that is where the real work is done. Let me tell you something important. The second component of this 15-minute habit is review, and it takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes to look at 3 things. First, your goals. Not the full list, not a long meditation on every dream you have ever had. Just a quick, deliberate look at your top 3 or 4 goals, written clearly on paper. Second, your values. A sentence or 2 that reminds you what you stand for, what you will not compromise, what kind of person you are committed to being. Third, a single note of what went well yesterday. Not a lengthy journal entry. 1 sentence, 1 thing. Something you did, something you decided, something you chose that you are proud of. These 3 things take 5 minutes, and they do something powerful. They anchor you. They remind you who you are before the world tries to tell you who to be. They pull your focus forward and backward at the same time, connecting where you have been with where you are going, and they do it in a way that no amount of passive inspiration ever could. Think about a ship without a compass. That ship might have a powerful engine. It might have a skilled crew. It might have enough fuel to cross any ocean on Earth. But without a compass, without a heading, it drifts. It burns fuel going nowhere. It exhausts the crew with motion that produces no destination. Most people are that ship. They have energy, they have capability, they have time, but without a daily review, without a consistent reminder of their direction, they drift. And drifting is not neutral, it has a cost. Every day you drift is a day compounded against you. Because time does not stop while you are figuring out your heading. It keeps moving. And the longer you drift, the further you get from where you actually wanted to go. The 5-minute review is your compass. Use it every morning, and you will never drift far from your true direction. Now ask yourself honestly, when did you last look at your written goals? Not think about them in a vague, general way, but actually look at them, written in your own handwriting in clear and specific language. If you cannot remember, you have identified one of the most significant reasons your progress has felt slower than you expected. The research on this, across decades and across every field of achievement, points to the same conclusion. People who write their goals down and review them regularly are dramatically more likely to achieve them than people who carry them only in their head. This is not magic. This is simply how the mind works. What you review, you reinforce. What you reinforce, you move toward. What you review consistently, you eventually become. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. That is a profound distinction, and I want you to hold it carefully. You cannot undo years of drift in a single morning. You cannot compress decades of compound growth into a weekend. But you can, today, in this morning, point yourself in a new direction. You can pick up the pen, write the goal, read the value, and choose to begin. And if you make that choice again tomorrow morning, and the morning after, and the morning after that, the direction compounds. Small changes in direction, sustained over time, produce enormous changes in destination. The ship that corrects its heading by 1 degree will arrive at a completely different port after a long enough journey. That 1 degree is the 15 minutes. That 1 degree is the review. That 1 degree is what most people never bother to make because it feels too small to matter. But it matters. It matters more than almost anything else you could do with those first few minutes of your day. We must all suffer one of two things: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And regret is the heavier burden, by far. I have never met a person who regretted the mornings they spent with intention. I have never met someone who looked back on a life of daily discipline and wished they had been less consistent, less focused, less devoted to their own development. But I have encountered, in every corner of life, people who carry the quiet, persistent weight of regret. Not the loud, dramatic regret of a single catastrophic mistake. The slow, accumulating regret of the small things never done. The book never written. The body never trained. The relationship never deepened. The goal never pursued beyond the level of wishful thinking. And almost always, when you trace those regrets back to their source, you find not a lack of talent, not a lack of opportunity, not an unfair world, but a lack of daily discipline. A lack of the 15 minutes. Let that settle in. The third component is movement, and this is where the habit becomes physical, where it anchors itself in the body and not just in the mind. 5 minutes of movement, deliberate and focused, at the end of your morning practice. 5 minutes. That is not a workout. That is not a training session. It is enough to elevate your heart rate, to signal to your body that today is a day of action and not passivity, to send a clear message to every cell and system inside you that you are not going to be carried through this day, you are going to drive it. The science on this is not ambiguous. Physical movement in the morning shifts your neurochemistry in ways that increase focus, reduce anxiety, improve decision-making, and enhance your capacity to handle the difficulties the day will bring. 5 minutes of walking in place, of stretching with intensity, of movement that costs you something, that takes effort, that requires you to breathe harder than you would sitting still. That is all it takes to flip the switch. But here is what the movement is really about, beyond the physiology. It is about the signal you send yourself. Imagine a person who rolls out of bed, reaches for a phone, lies there for 20 minutes absorbing other people's content, then drags themselves to the kitchen for coffee before the demands of the day begin to push and pull. What is that person telling themselves about who they are and what they are worth? Now imagine the person who rises, sits in stillness for 2 minutes, reviews their goals and values for 5, then moves their body with intention for 5. What is that person telling themselves? They are telling themselves they are serious. They are telling themselves they are the kind of person who invests in themselves before investing time in anything else. And that self-signal, that daily declaration through action, compounds just like interest in a bank. Every morning you show up, you deposit into the account of self-belief. Every morning you skip, you make a withdrawal. Over time, one of those accounts grows into something that changes your entire financial picture. The other runs dry. Choose your account carefully. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That is one of the most counterintuitive ideas in all of personal development, because everything about modern life is structured to make you do the opposite. Your job has a schedule, deadlines, accountability, consequences for non-performance. Your own development has none of those external guardrails unless you build them yourself. And so most people work very hard at their job and very little on themselves. They develop competence in what they are paid to do. They develop very little competence in who they are and who they could become. The 15-minute morning habit is the simplest, most practical corrective to that imbalance. It is 15 minutes every morning where you are working on the person who will go to the job, live the life, face the challenges, and make the decisions. It is an investment with no ceiling on its return. Now think about this. The people in the top 3%, the ones who consistently achieve at levels that most people only admire from a distance, are not necessarily smarter. They are not necessarily more talented or more gifted or more fortunate. In most cases, the gap is almost entirely behavioral. They do things, small things, every day that the 97% find too simple to take seriously. They write down their goals. They review their values. They protect their mornings. They start before they feel ready. They do not negotiate with themselves about whether to do the thing. They just do it, because the decision was made long ago and is no longer open for debate each day. That is the real secret. It is not the 15 minutes itself that separates them. It is the fact that those 15 minutes are non-negotiable. That is the word, non-negotiable. They are not available for excuses. They are not subject to review based on how tired you feel or how late you stayed up or how busy the day looks ahead. They are protected, like the most important meeting you have ever had, because they are. Let me tell you something powerful. The moment you start negotiating with your discipline is the moment you begin losing it. Negotiation with yourself about whether to do the morning habit is not a sign of wisdom or flexibility. It is a sign that the habit has not yet taken root, because a real habit does not need a debate. A real habit is just what you do. You do not debate whether to brush your teeth. You do not hold an internal committee meeting about whether today feels like a good day to breathe. The habits that are truly anchored require no energy from your decision-making capacity. They simply happen, like the roots of a tree drawing water upward without being told to. And the morning habit, once it is truly anchored, once it has been repeated enough times in enough different conditions, becomes exactly that, non-negotiable, automatic, part of who you are, not just what you do. But you have to get through the uncomfortable season first, the season where it still takes effort, the season where the negotiation is loudest. Stay with it through that season. That is where most people quit, and that is exactly why most people stay in the 97%. If you really want to do something, you will find a way. If you do not, you will find an excuse. Hold that thought for a moment, because it has the power to change the way you look at every area of your life where you have been telling yourself a story about why you cannot. The excuse is always available. It is never in short supply. There is always a reason why today is not a good day to start, why this week is too busy, why you need to wait until things settle down. But the truth, the real truth, beneath all of those reasons is simply that you have not decided, not truly. Because the person who has truly decided does not need the perfect conditions. They do not need the motivation to show up first. They create the conditions by showing up. They generate the motivation by beginning. The decision comes first, and everything else follows. And that decision is made or not made in those 15 minutes every morning. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. That is one of the hardest truths in the philosophy of personal development. We live in a world that has elevated affirmation to almost sacred status. Repeat the right words enough times, the argument goes, and your life will transform. And there is something true in the idea that what you say to yourself matters. But affirmation without action is performance. It is the rehearsal without the game, the script without the production. And no amount of telling yourself that you are disciplined, focused, successful, and unstoppable means anything at all if your actions do not match the words. The 15-minute morning habit is not an affirmation. It is an action. It is the physical, measurable, repeatable proof that you are who you say you are. Every morning you complete it, you have evidence. Real evidence, not just a feeling, not just a hope, but a record of behavior that aligns with the person you intend to become. Stack enough of those mornings together and the evidence becomes undeniable, first to yourself and then to the world around you. Let me ask you a question. What is the version of you that exists 1 year from today if you do these 15 minutes every single morning without exception? Think carefully. Not the version that does it 3 times and quits. Not the version that does it for 2 weeks when motivation is high and then lets it slide. The version that makes the decision today and keeps it. The version that is in it for the long journey, not the quick result. In 1 year, that version of you has reviewed their goals over 360 times. They have sat in stillness over 360 times. They have moved their body with intention over 360 times. They have consistently reinforced who they are and where they are going every single morning in the quiet before the world began. What does that person know about themselves that they did not know before? What has accumulated in them that could not have been purchased or shortcut? What kind of roots have grown in a year of daily watering? That is the version of you that we are building. And it starts not in a year, not next Monday, not when things are less busy. It starts tomorrow morning. Success is something you attract by the person you become, not by the tactics you memorize, not by the strategies you read about on a Saturday afternoon, by the person you become through consistent daily intentional action. And the morning is where that becoming happens. The 15 minutes is not the destination, it is the training ground. It is the place where you practice being the person who achieves the things you want to achieve, so that by the time the opportunity arrives, you are already ready. The farmer does not plant in the summer and expect a fall harvest. The farmer plants in the spring, tends through the growing season, and trusts the process even when there is nothing visible to confirm that it is working. Your 15 minutes is the planting. Your consistency is the tending. Your character, growing stronger every morning, is the harvest. It does not come on your timeline. It comes when it is ready, and it comes in proportion to what you planted. Now let me speak to the part of you that already knows all of this. The part that has read it before, heard it before, felt the truth of it before, and still has not made the commitment that would change things. Because that part exists in almost everyone. The part that understands and still does not act. And I want to speak directly to it right now, with no softness, because softness is not what that part of you needs. The information is not the problem. You do not need more information. You do not need another video, another book, another podcast episode that tells you discipline matters. You need a decision, a real decision, the kind that does not expire when motivation dips, the kind that does not require renegotiation every morning, the kind that becomes part of your identity so completely that skipping it would feel like a betrayal of who you are, not just a minor inconvenience. That decision is available to you right now in this moment before this video ends. Not tomorrow, now. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Because easy will never get you where you are trying to go. Easy will give you the life that 97 out of 100 people end up with. A life that is not bad in the conventional sense, but that falls so far short of what was possible that it becomes its own quiet, tragedy. The 15 minutes is not hard. It is 15 minutes. But it requires something that ease never will. It requires the daily choice to be the 1%, the 3%, the small number who do not wait for perfect conditions but create them, who do not wait for motivation but generate it through action, who do not wish for a better life but build one, morning by morning, plank by plank, across the bridge that discipline builds between goals and accomplishment. Don't spend major time on minor things. And the most minor thing you can do with your morning is to hand it over without a fight. The most minor use of those first 15 minutes is the scroll, the passive consumption, the drift. Because the morning is not just time. The morning is the setting of your mind for everything that comes after it. The tone you set in the first 15 minutes echoes through the entire day. The focus you establish or fail to establish in those first quiet moments shapes every decision, every interaction, every response you make for the hours that follow. People who protect their mornings are not being precious or rigid. They are being strategic. They understand that what happens in the first 15 minutes is disproportionately powerful compared to any other 15 minutes in the day. So guard it, protect it as if it were the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. You will not always feel motivated to do the 15 minutes. Most mornings, if you are honest, motivation will have nothing to do with it. You will be tired. You might have slept badly. The day ahead might look overwhelming, and those 15 minutes might feel like a small and irrelevant thing compared to everything that is already pressing against you. And none of that matters. None of it. Because the habit does not wait for motivation. The habit is already decided. The habit is just what you do in the morning. The way breathing is just what you do. The way your heart beats without you scheduling it. You are building toward that level of automaticity. You are building toward the morning where the question of whether to do it never arises, because the answer is so deeply embedded in who you are that it requires no energy, no debate, no willpower. It simply happens. And on the mornings when it does simply happen, you will feel something that is more powerful than motivation. You will feel identity. You will feel the quiet, unshakable certainty of a person who knows who they are and acts accordingly every single day without fail. Here is what the 97% will do with everything you just heard. They will feel it. They will feel the truth of it resonating somewhere in the core of them, the way a bell sounds when it is struck. They will nod along. They will feel motivated for a brief, bright window of time. And then life will return, the phone will ring, the day will demand, and the feeling will fade. And by tomorrow morning, the 15 minutes will not happen because the feeling is no longer strong enough to carry them. The 3% will do something different. They will not wait to feel motivated. They will not wait for the feeling to be strong enough. They will make the decision before the feeling has a chance to fade. They will write it down tonight. They will set the alarm for tomorrow morning. They will lay out what they need and remove what they do not. They will eliminate the friction so that when tomorrow morning arrives, the path of least resistance leads directly into the 15 minutes rather than away from it. They will start before they are ready, because they know that readiness is a feeling and feelings are unreliable, but decisions held with conviction and backed by behavior are not. There is a simple, powerful idea that lives at the center of everything we have talked about today, and it is this: the quality of your life is the quality of your days, not your best days, not your most inspired days, not the days when everything is going well and the energy is high and the conditions are perfect. The average day, the ordinary, unremarkable Tuesday in February kind of day when nothing is particularly exciting and everything requires effort, that day is the building block. That day, repeated hundreds of times, becomes the month, becomes the year, becomes the decade, becomes the life. And that day begins in the morning. Those 15 minutes are the foundation of that day. And you can lay that foundation strong, or you can let it crumble before the house is even built. The choice is made every morning in those first 15 quiet minutes before the world arrives. Your goals are worth 15 minutes. Your health is worth 15 minutes. Your focus is worth 15 minutes. The life you have been describing to yourself in quiet moments, the one you have not yet built but can see clearly when you allow yourself to imagine it, that life is worth 15 minutes every single morning for the rest of your working days. Not more. Not some enormous sacrifice. Not a radical restructuring of everything you are. Just 15 minutes. A decision already made, a habit already anchored, a morning already protected. Begin tomorrow. Not perfectly, not with everything figured out. Begin with the stillness. 2 minutes. Just sit with yourself and breathe and ask what matters most today. Then review what you are building toward. 5 minutes. Look at it on paper, in your own words, in your own hand, then move. 5 minutes. Send your body the signal that today is a day of action. Do that tomorrow morning. Do it the morning after. Do it on the mornings when you do not feel like it, especially on those mornings. And watch what happens to the person who shows up in your mirror at the end of a year. The 97% will sleep through this. They will drift through the morning the way they have always drifted, with the best of intentions and the worst of habits. But you are not reading this to stay in the 97%. You are here because some part of you already knows that the life you want is on the other side of the bridge, and the bridge is built 15 minutes at a time. So set the alarm, protect the morning, build the habit that builds the person, and then let that person loose on the world, one disciplined morning at a time.